Therapists who work with traumatized patients will tell you your system will not allow you to heal the trauma until you feel safe enough to do so. When your brain is in flight or fight, back down in the brain stem back here, it has powered off your neocortex. That's the rational thinking part of your brain. The amygdala, the nervous system, and the brain's ancient systems of survival are designed for you to survive. They are faster, and they are a lot less complicated than your neocortex. These resources are going to keep you alive the best and the quickest way your brain knows how, which is not by learning new things or trying new strategies. But it's not just trauma that causes this learning stopping effect. It's also just regular old conflict. Think for a second about the last time you had an argument with someone you did not know very well, someone in traffic, or maybe in line at the grocery store, or on the internet. In the heat of that argument, how did it feel in your body? Did your face get hot? Or maybe your body get cold? Did you feel jumpy, or maybe extremely still? Did things get really fast or really slow? If that happened, that was your nervous system responding to a threat, mistaking a conflict for a battle. It was preparing you to survive that battle, either through fighting, or through running, or through locking it down. When you remember how your body felt in that conflict, do you feel particularly open to new ideas? No. No. Is this the time that your system wants to try a new thing? If someone took out a book and started reading it to you at this moment, how much of that book would you absorb?
0.
When your body is primed for battle, it is not primed for learning. It's in survival mode, which is not open and listening mode. A person in fear is not open to change. If your system is afraid, it will not allow your brain to make changes. It won't even allow your brain to listen to the possibility of change. You are going to rely on the same old strategies that you have always relied on, even if you know they haven't been working, because those are the strategies that have kept you alive until this moment. Your lizard brain says, "You're alive, aren't you? So shut up with your new suggestions." In my pre-minister life, I was an advocate for nuclear disarmament. I had a friend at one of my activist jobs, and we shared a passion for nuclear abolition. We were friends for years. We shared confidences and stories. We shared joy and grief. My friend was kind, and he was smart. And we both worked for nuclear abolition because we cared deeply about people, and we loved the world. One day, we were on a walk in Midtown Manhattan, and we stopped to grab a coffee in a park, when he told me that the government he was working for was considering developing a nuclear power program. I stopped cold. What? He was really nonchalant about this piece of information, telling me that his government was looking into save on energy costs, and that there was no reason the big powers should be the only ones with access to nuclear technology. He worked for a country that was a member of the non-aligned movement, which is 120 or so countries that are neither aligned with the Western nor the Eastern Bloc. I was stunned by his news. I felt betrayed. Here was my buddy working with me in the trenches for nuclear abolition, casually toying with the idea of nuclear energy. I confess that I lost it a little bit. I began a rapid-fire, extremely heated list of reasons why this was a terrible idea, from US propaganda about nuclear power simply being a bill of goods to sell their nuclear weapons program, to the exorbitant cost, to its Chernobyl meltdown capacity, to its never-ending toxic waste. I rattled off per kilowatt-hour numbers. I talked about toxic mining and waste practices, and the fact that the people who are creating the containers to store nuclear waste design them in pictographs because the nuclear fuel rods that are spent will be deadly longer than any human language currently spoken will exist. And I ended in a big harumph with the fact that not only was it all a lie, a propaganda machine designed to convince people to accept United States nuclear weapons program, but it was also the key that would unlock the door to nuclear weapons for any country that made the choice to follow a nuclear energy program. I told him point blank that if he was really, actually, truly committed to nuclear disarmament, he would never even consider a nuclear energy program in his country because it would inevitably spread nuclear weapons around the world. My friend looked at me a little startled. I had never been angry with him before. In 4 years of friendship, I had never spoken to him this way. He raised his eyebrows at me and he said something along the lines of, "Okay." And that was that. We made our way slowly back to the east side in awkward tension, and I felt a little embarrassed, but also still hurt and frustrated. We hugged goodbye, and we didn't talk for maybe a year. And then, around a year later, he called me up to share some big news with me. He got me on the phone and he said, "I won!" And I was like, "Great! What did you win?" And he told me that he won the nuclear power debate in his government's State Department. And I was like, what? My friend told me that that moment we had in the park, he listened and he went back to the sources that I cited in my 5-minute rapid-fire tirade, because of course I cited my sources. And not only did he read the books and the articles that I rattled off, but he also kept digging and doing his own research. He read everything that he could get his hands on, and he changed his mind about nuclear power. He came to the conclusion that yes, it was indeed a boondoggle that would not only cost his country money and expose them to the horrific toxicity and danger of nuclear reactors and waste, but that it would also spread the technology that is used to build nuclear weapons. He began actively campaigning against nuclear power in his State Department. Now, there was another man in his State Department that was equally campaigning just as hard for nuclear power, and these two duked it out for more than a year until finally his director made the decision to not pursue a nuclear energy program in his country. I was totally stunned. I had no idea about everything that he had been doing to prevent his country from going down this dangerous and toxic road. But even more, his country was one of the major disarmament experts in the non-aligned movement. They were who the non-aligned movement looked to for wisdom on all things nukes. So their decision to not pursue nuclear power was going to affect another 120 countries around the world. My friend's transformation was a really big deal. Transformation is a process. Yes, in this story, there was a moment of transformation in the park, but my friend did not suddenly become a butterfly in that moment, nor did I. There were years of preparation that led up to it. For me, there were years of study, of learning information over and over in different ways through books, yes, and articles, but also through people, through my friends and my loved ones who had been working at nuclear power sites or nuclear mining sites or nuclear testing sites, whose hearts and minds were scarred with a bomb-shaped outline that imprinted itself on me. But even more importantly than that, there were years of friendship. There were years of laughing over coffee and trusting one another with confidences and opinions and growing ideas. Years of walking and talking and learning. There were the subtle cues of safety that can only come through relationship. The relaxed shoulders, the open eyes, the slow, rhythmic breathing that tells the body it is in safe company. Transformation is a series of small changes, building over years that eventually can lead to that massive move through the eye of the needle of transformation. And it's that eye that we like to talk about, that we like to jump through, that we like to jump for. But it's the years and years of buildup of small changes that enable that sudden, spectacular butterfly move. There was a time of cocooning, of slow wrapping, learning like silk threads around the body, a time of letting go in safety to explore, a time of becoming a big mess, and then a time of slow rebuilding before the moment that the butterfly breaks through the threads. In the human world, so often the safety of the cocoon is relationship. Study after study shows that human beings change through relationship, not through books or memes or a particularly powerful article. Those things can be useful learning, yes, but they are usually only taken seriously when handed to us by someone with whom we are in a relationship of trust. The New York Times published an article in 2018 about Derek Black, a former white supremacist who changed his mind after attending New College and developing friendships with immigrants and Jewish people. He was slowly changing, moving away bit by bit from an ideology of hatred and questioning what he had been taught as a child. But it was in a loving relationship that included challenge with his girlfriend that all the small movements build up to the final break with his white supremacist family and ideology. And in that relationship with his girlfriend, they argued. And yes, she sent him articles. But he was able to digest them in the context of a relationship he trusted. And eventually he changed his mind. He became part of a movement of what is called formers, people who found their way out of hate groups and I'll counter-recruit, undermining theologies of hate and inviting more people to change. If you go back to the way that you were feeling at the beginning of the sermon, when you were in a conflict with someone you didn't know, how might how you were feeling change if that conflict, while still hot, was with someone that you trust? Is it possible, once you've had a moment to calm down, to go back to the argument and explore? Is it possible to learn more from your loved one? Are there places that you can find new flexibility, new opening because you feel connected and held in love and trust? Transformation is a long and sometimes slow process with sudden bursts of breakthrough. And we work a long time to enable those bursts. Lifelong commitment to change is what enables those sudden, beautiful, brilliant butterfly breakthroughs. And relationship, love, trust, and safety enable those beautiful, brilliant butterfly breakthroughs. Our minds are capable of learning and new insights when we're relaxed. Challenge and even conflict can be good for us if we braid it in with trust, when it is held in healthy, loving relationship. Transformation becomes possible in the restful space. The restful space of taking a walk or taking a breath or lying down on the beach and looking up at the stars. We can open ourselves to new insight, to the big changes, braided from all the small ones when we relax our mind enough to explore and allow those breakthroughs to emerge from our gathered experiences and shifts in understanding. We may never feel fully ready for the massive changes that happen in our lives or in the world. There's no posture of crouching readiness at the starting line for running the race of change. The ready is relationship. In church, in school, in your job, in your family, relationship enables change. It enables learning. Because we learn through each other. We learn through love and through trusting another person's integrity and their commitment to our highest good and the good of the world. This is how we turn the world around, one by one, loving and learning one another into wholeness and liberation. May it be so.